over that super volcano right there at Yellowstone. Matter of fact, the Grand Teton National Park, they urgent closing of the Grand Teton National Park because a 100-foot fissure opened up right there over the super volcano, which, because the Grand Teton National Park is right next to Yellowstone National Park, but the super volcano covers both parks, and it's even larger than that. And this fissure just opened up right over the super volcano. What does this mean? Let me break in right now and remind everyone, for 10 days, I promised I would let you know that Noble Gold Investments, they're the guys to go to if you're just now getting your 401k or your IRA, or you have a retirement plan that you need to diversify. You don't know what to do with it. Look, I'm not the guy. I'm Pastor Begley. I'm in the cornfields of Indiana. The guy to call is Colin Plume over at noblegoldinvestments.com. That's noblegoldinvestments.com. Let them help you with your 401k or your IRA, or maybe you just got your inheritance or a large insurance settlement. You don't know what to do. Don't know where to put it. They're a Christian company, family-owned, great friends of our ministry. So check out Noble Gold Investments. Now, here's what's going on. It's an urgent situation over at Yellowstone, but a 100-foot fissure has sparked an urgent park closure. This 100-foot fissure has opened up in the Grand Teton National Park, not far from, of course, the Yellowstone National Park, and potentially this catastrophic super volcano. It's right there. Matter of fact, this giant crack in the Wyoming-based national park has prompted officials to shut down the area to all tourists in case of landslides. And the 100-foot fissure has prompted the closure of part of the Grand Teton National Park. The Grand Teton National Park said that the Hidden Falls and the Inspiration Point areas are currently closed due to the elevated potential of rock falls, landslides. But it's a whole lot more than that, folks. They got the geologists, they got all the different volcanologists and seismologists. Everybody's over there trying to figure out, what does this mean? Is the super volcano getting ready to erupt? Are we starting to feel it? Or is it, remember, the roads have melted. We have longer steam. There's a hotter, the waters around are scalding. Animals are fleeing the park. The cauldron has risen quite a bit. Look, we're concerned. And with Hawaii continuing as the epicenter of the apocalypse, according to Mary Greeley and others, there's a connection between the Hawaii volcano and what goes on at Yellowstone. The magma is moving, folks. The magma is moving. The lava is leaping. And we are really very concerned. Despite this, it's an urgent situation for them to close this park. Matter of fact, if the Wyoming volcano were to erupt, an estimated 87,000 people would be killed immediately, and 2/3 of the United States would immediately be made uninhabitable. So you have to understand, we're talking about a cataclysmic, catastrophic, near extinction event. Certainly, what would be known as the end of the world for America would have come, and the drastic effects on Canada and the entire Western Hemisphere and the entire weather patterns of the globe. The ash that would fall would just suffocate so many cities and towns and villages, power outages, lack of water, no transportation systems working, a total state of chaos. So this is why they closed the park. This is why they're watching very closely. This is why they're getting involved, because they realize something biblical is going on with the signs of the second coming of Christ.
Hello, my friends. Thank you for joining me at Evolutionary Energy Arts once again. So we're going to start off over in Britain, and we have an earthquake striking near Gatwick Airport. First reported in 250 years, and it shook houses. It wasn't a large earthquake. It's just that it's a very, very unusual area to get one. And you can see it's very, very close to London. And so quite a few people felt it. It was only a 2.6 on the Richter scale. It struck at a depth of about 5 kilometers at 12:30 p.m. And so just a curiosity, really. And we're seeing earthquakes in diverse places for sure. The other thing that we're seeing is really a lot of really odd cloud formations. Incredible cloud formations. And this is a massive shelf cloud in Poland on June 25th. And look at that. What it looks like to me, if you guys ever remember any of the old monster movies they used to have, like the Godzilla ones and stuff, it's just like you expect that to be some sort of monster in there, gigantic thing going to come out. Just so weird and so ominous looking. And we're seeing these just bizarre cloud formations everywhere, along with incredibly intense severe weather, as we've been saying. And so check out this one. This one is labeled as being a mothership supercell, and this is in Kansas. That's just wow. I mean, what an amazing cloud formation there as well. And we know there was a tornado that struck, and a supercell did form. And just look at some of these photos. Just amazing and ominous and intense. So surreal. It looks like they are works of art, like as if you were going to paint a picture of what the apocalypse would look like. And look at that beautiful shot with the lightning coming down. It's just incredible, those shades of purple. And I'll let you guys go ahead and play that video. And also they had some severe some pretty good size hail. And we know there was a lot of damage associated with that storm. Some rivers are so drug polluted the eels are high on cocaine. Okay? That's crazy, isn't it? Critically endangered eels hyped up on cocaine could have trouble making a 3,700-mile trip to mate and reproduce. New research is warning. And that's how polluted it is in some of our waterways. It's a sad situation. And so while many times I've said I don't believe so much in the man-influenced global warming, I do think that we have had a very horrible influence on the pollution and and the environment in general. And as I've stated many times, we're more like a parasite or a virus really upon the earth than something living in a symbiotic relationship with it. And all these pharmaceuticals that get flushed down the toilet one way or another, entering the water supply, and all the drugs, they stick around. They stick around and they affect everything they come in contact with. It's really a very, very sad situation. And as it says here, the data shows a great presence of illicit drugs and their metabolites in surface waters worldwide. And that was stated by Anna Capaldo, a research biologist at the University of Naples, and the lead author of the study. She adds that water near densely populated cities is even worse, with some of the research showing particularly high concentrations in the Thames River near London's House of Parliament and the Italian Amo River near Pisa, of the Leaning Tower of Pisa fame. So these poor eels are high on cocaine. And, if you're eating them, or if you're eating fish, that are exposed to these toxins, and you're getting exposed to them too. And it's just this cycle. It's part of the food chain. So is there a new volcano on Hawaii? And this has been brewing in my mind for a while, and this article basically states it. So really what's happening at Fissure 8, which is the most active one, is that really what we have is the formation of a new volcano basically being made. And we could see that there is a building crater, as you can see here at Fissure 8, and it's a very substantial, prominent feature, at the cone being about 200 feet high. And it's one that, as it says here, is likely to endure for thousands of years unless it's obliterated by later or more violent volcanic activity. And when we're talking about Hawaii and talking about the volcanic activity, there's been a lot of interesting things. And here you can see this was where the earthquake was in the UK, and we had that other unusual earthquake up in Sweden, and there was another one in Sweden a few days earlier as well. And so if we shift over and let's look at what's going on over here in the Pacific, one of the things that hit me was all this activity in Alaska. So much activity in Alaska going on right now. Lots of swarming. And very curious that so many of these earthquakes are at 0.0 kilometers. Many of them are very small. But, just wondering what's up with that. Is it a computer glitch going on, or are we trying to indicate some sort of magma flow? 0.1. And we can just see there's like an awful lot of swarming going on right now in Alaska, also in western U.S. as we've seen before. And there's one over here that caught my eye as well. It's a 1.6, so it's not big, but it's 15 kilometers east-southeast of Soda Springs, Idaho. So this is towards the lower part of the Yellowstone area, and it's at negative 3.3 kilometers. So that's up around 10,000 feet. And when I look at that position, we could see where it is. You can see Yellowstone National Park up here. So this is kind of how the magma travels, going up from the superplume that starts all the way down by Baja, California, and goes on up through California, through Nevada, through Utah, and up into Idaho and up into Wyoming. And so this is on that path, and that is at a pretty high level, so just curious as to whether that is some magma flow going on there. And as we know, Yellowstone is something that is always got to be taken seriously. The polar vortex generally sits over the North Pole area. There's one up in the Arctic and there's one down in the Antarctic. And I watch this Null School site, earth.nullschool.net, on a daily basis. And it's been split for a little while now, at least a week, if not more. And it's a really interesting pattern. And one thing that immediately hits me with the way the pattern is going is that if this thing ever lasted long, like into spring, or if this develops in the spring and hangs around for a while in the spring, I would think we're going to be in serious trouble, because it's actually warmer right now at the geographical North Pole than it is in many parts of Canada and Siberia. And this is a great website where you could check temperatures and everything. It really is fabulous, and it'll give you different layers of the atmosphere and really give you a clue of what's going on here, so you can monitor it yourself. And on this map, the coldest temperatures are usually kind of like a violet color. And so we could see in some of the islands in northern Canada temperatures of 33 degrees below actual temps, 39 degrees below. And this is not, this is quite a ways south of Greenland and south of the actual geographical North Pole, which really is at like 17 degrees Fahrenheit. So it's actually above zero. 21 degrees in some areas here, way up in the actual geographic North Pole. And then we also have extremely cold temperatures over in Russia and in Northern Europe. 26 below, 35 below actual temps, 27 below, 24 below, extending pretty far down. So very interesting, really interesting when you're looking at it. And when you look at some of the temperatures, it's 35 degrees off the coast of Greenland, off the northern coast of Greenland. That makes me worry about melting of the ice sheets up there. Because if a pattern like that continued, you know, it could definitely spell disaster. And it's really so amazing how the warm temps are going so far up. You know, 36 degrees north of Iceland. Way north of Iceland, really. Up into the Arctic Circle. And yet it's way colder, many degrees farther south. So we have some serious change going on here. If this isn't, you know, I'm just a lay person with this, but if this is not an indication of a pole shift, then I don't know. You know, it seems like we are definitely watching serious changes going on. Not Al Gore changes, but real changes. And you just have to wonder how long it's going to stay. Now, when you think about the polar vortex splitting in two, I wonder if there's some sort of geomagnetic reason for this, because the sun will, when it's having a pole shift and its poles are going to flip, sometimes there will be two north poles and two south poles that develop spontaneously. You will have this in the sun, and I wonder if the same holds true for the earth potentially, until equilibrium comes and we find a new balancing point. We know that there's huge changes going on. This is not just one little blip, one little aberration. This is what was talked about from Edgar Cayce and some others from time long ago. And exactly what Edgar Cayce for one said, it really does look like he's right on the nose with things, and we'll see if that pans out. Most people were thinking that it was going to happen more like around the 90s and 2000s, but it appears that things are really happening now as far as the Earth changes. And again, we have cold spells that are shattering temperature records in Washington right now, Montana, all over the West. And the reason is because of this polar vortex split. So it's right now it's kind of like we have two north poles. There's one sitting in Siberia and there's one sitting, you know, over Canada. That's what it looks like when you actually look at it. Because when we go to the South Pole, it's unified. And it's summer in the southern hemisphere still. And we have some seriously cold temps going on down there. 53 degrees below, 54 degrees below, almost 55 degrees below zero. So the southern hemisphere doesn't look abnormal, although it does have some intense cold temps going, but the northern hemisphere looks bizarre. And we're seeing it weather-wise. So right now with that dip that we had in the polar vortex, you got serious records being shattered, and we had it both ways. We had serious warm weather records going on the East Coast. Absolutely crazy. In Europe, same thing, record-setting cold. Europe's record-setting cold weather just switched directions and is heading for the US now. So get ready. Winter's not over, people. And with the volcanoes going off and the potential for more volcanoes going off, and I would lay money on it, the summer will be probably very cool. And some people are calling for a summer that won't really be a summer. It'll be more like spring and fall temperatures. that never quite gets to summer. So we shall see, and that's more for the northern latitudes. We have flooding that's continuing, massive flooding now going on. Now, the Mississippi is going to have tremendous flooding because there's well over 100 tributaries that flow into the Mississippi, and we have tremendous flooding going on. Michigan, Indiana, Wisconsin, as you could see, pretty crazy flooding. And Casey talked about all this too. Tuesday's record warmth long gone, but the region's river flooding persists. And this is Toledo, all through the Midwest. All eyes on the Illinois River. Here it's a major flood, but it doesn't appear to be quite a record yet. Temperatures plummet as record rainfall freezes and floods on Wednesday morning. So this is in the Chicago area. Record flooding and then the deep freeze settling in. So nice deep ice to skate on. So what is going on with the other aspects of this, such as earthquakes? Well, there's a lot going on, and California is swarming. The whole West is swarming. There is so much activity going on out in the western part of the country. Of course, we always have fracking going on in Oklahoma, but tons and tons of earthquakes going on in the western part and also in Alaska. Alaska swarming. Still, we have a lot of the usual places that are experiencing a lot of earthquake activity. Of course, the Ring of Fire, and Greece had several earthquakes this week. I remember seeing at least 4 of them, as the plates there have been active really everywhere. The Mid-Atlantic Ridge, New Zealand, tons of course over in Chile and in Peru and Ecuador and Bolivia. I mean, you name it, there's a lot of activity. There is a volcanic swarm to be aware of going on over in Iceland. That is definitely something to keep our eyes on. There's potential there. And closer to home here in the US, we have a lot going on as well. Probably one of the most scary things, at least it's the one that always makes me have a little sick feeling in the pit of my stomach, is the Canary Islands, La Palma. And there's been a flurry of earthquakes over there. And the fear is, and scientists have done basically peer-reviewed studies that show that if La Palma went, it would cause a huge tsunami that would affect the entire East Coast, and not only that, but also Europe too, everywhere from UK to France and Spain. It would be completely disastrous, and then the East Coast of the US, would just be completely inundated with a mega tsunami that could literally roll miles inland. So it would be one of the scariest scenarios that we could think of, and that's one to definitely keep your eye on. Now, this is off of InfoWars, but there's many other sources talking about the same stuff, so this is for real. And this is saying major eruption imminent, ? Earthquake swarms reported at Mount Hood, Mount Rainier, and Mount St. Helens. All of them. Things are seriously heating up. Scary stuff, but remember, no fear. And we'll get to that a little bit later. And Yellowstone seismic swarm reflects changes in stress along small faults. So Yellowstone is swarming as well. All the areas active. And we know we're going to have a ton of volcanic activity going on. And that is going to increase the cold temperatures. So I'll be honest with you, I definitely do not, I don't want to have any fear, but as far as like listing the things I'm concerned about, the mini ice age is not at the top of my list. Really, I'm much more concerned with what's going on with the pole shift. And there are those people that, again, will say pole shift does not mean crustal displacement. It doesn't mean anything more, according to some people, that the magnetic field changes and nothing happens to the actual Earth. But we could see that at the very least you're going to have increased earthquakes and volcanic activity. Whether or not an actual crustal displacement event happens or not, you are going to have tremendous earthquakes and volcanic activity, and that is happening. You know, we could see it. It's really happening. Edgar Cayce was an amazing healer, really. I mean, you know, that's the thing that he did, was he would go into his trance and he would tell what was wrong with people miles away. He would say, the subject has pain under the left rib, sensing the spleen overactive, take this herb, it'll help purify the blood. Or, you know, he would know there's something going on with the liver, take this and do this. You know, he could tell exactly what was going on in people's body and give them a natural cure for it in a trance. They discovered during these readings that he could tap into much more than that. And he ended up doing many, many readings talking about the earth changes that were coming. And the earth changes that were coming that he talked about included complete changes in weather patterns all over the globe. Just everything is going to be so different. Pole shift. He did talk about pole shift. Volcanic and earthquake activity will increase. Weather patterns changing are going to cause catastrophic earth changes. So there's a lot of scary in here, for sure. But there is a silver lining too. And the main silver lining is that when we get through all this, he said that the world will be as one. So the world is going to come out of this unified, and then it's not going to be what we had anymore. It's not going to be all this warring and just, you know, fighting amongst ourselves. We're going to come out of this a unified people and a much more cooperative people. And also, he spoke about a new consciousness that was going to arise. However, just like a dirty dog you got to put in the bathtub and wash off, the earth is going to need to cleanse itself. So that is part of what's going on here. The earth changes are almost like, yeah, a dog shaking the fleas off of itself.
volcano is ready to blow. Scientists warn. Building to blow. This is the Long Valley caldera of California. It's not just Yellowstone that is ready to blow. We also have another old area, the Long Valley caldera, located in the area of California. It would take in California, Nevada, Arizona, New Mexico, Colorado, and Utah. Certainly hoping that all these states have evacuation plans, including filter masks to wear and emergency food and water. The way the Long Valley volcano is acting, you might need this as soon as possible. When people think of California, they may think of earthquakes, but a lot of people don't know that there are volcanoes there as well. At least two, the Lassen Peak and the much larger Long Valley caldera near Mammoth Lakes. In 1915, Lassen Peak erupted and wrecked a huge portion of the state of California. Now, over the last 100 days, the much larger Long Valley caldera has been acting up. It's acting up with uplift, with earthquakes, and it's doing what geologists and the U.S. Geological Survey are calling concern. The caldera, the mouth of the volcano, is moving. According to scientific instruments monitoring the area, the United States Geological Survey, that's the USGS, in the area in the vicinity of the Long Valley caldera, find that it is deforming and it's moving rapidly compared to previous records. Now, how sure are they this is happening? They're 95% confident, and the data assembled is significant. It shows that a recent time span, the amount of the movement is causing statistically significant strain in the rocks of the area. It is not a conspiracy theory or conjecture or amateur geological antics. This is from the USGS itself. This is the actual data. And now you can see it in the article I'll leave below for you. It may look like gobbledygook to you, but you're not alone. You can scroll down and understand the explanations. USGS instrument measurements. It says the following exceed SRN 1.5, and at the 95% CI, the assemble is significant. Time span is 31 out of 730 days. To be significant at the 95% CI, counts need to exceed 20 units in either mm per year or nanostrain per year. So you can be saved the trouble. All of the readings in the first data exceed the 20 units. The following units exceed SNR 2.0, and at the 95% CI, the assemble is significant. This time span is 31 out of 730 days. To be significant at the 95% CI level, counts need to be 9 units in either mm per year or nanostrain per year. And now again, they save us the trouble. All the data in the second set exceeds 9 units. One is read by a lot. And the following exceed SRN 3.0 at the 95% CI, assemble significant. Time span is 31 out of 730 days. Significantly at the 95% CI level, counts need to exceed 1 unit in either mm per year or nanostrain per year. And again, they save us the trouble. They all exceed 1 unit. The ones in red by a lot. So what does this mean? So judging by the deformation directions and the rates, the magma plume is subsiding over the previous caldera and rising just south of it. This is where the earthquakes are swarming now. The entire thing is tilting away from the mountains, with the northern edge of the old caldera sinking, the southern edge moving north. It's as if pushed by some force in the swarm region, and this does not look at all good. This is what the USGS puts it as being. Increasing volcanic unrest, including earthquake swarms, ground deformation, and carbon dioxide gas emissions in the Long Valley area since 1980, increases the chance of an eruption occurring in the near future. Scientists still lack adequate data to reliably calculate by how much. Volcanic unrest in some other large volcanic system has persisted for decades or even centuries without leading to the eruption. But since volcanic unrest can escalate to an eruption quickly in a few weeks or days or less, the USGS scientists are monitoring the activity closely. And for those of you who might not quite comprehend this, they're putting it very clearly in another way. Out of nowhere, the mountain started moving several times faster than it's ever moved before, in a direction it is not supposed to be moving, while shaking like a leaf and belching poisonous gas. So that should be clear enough for just anyone. The USGS has also issued a status statement about the volcano which reads as follows. Long Valley Caldera, California, Mono County, latitude 37.7 north, longitude 118.87 degrees west, elevation 2,600 meters or 8,530 feet. Volcano type, caldera. Composition, basalt to rhyolite. Most recent eruption, 16 to 17,000 years ago. Nearby towns, Mammoth Lakes. Threat potential, very high. Oh joy, threat potential is very high, just what we need. Earthquakes. There are huge swarms of earthquakes. There's a whole list here. So the ground is deforming, carbon monoxide and earthquakes. We all know earthquakes are the pretty reliable indicator of a pending eruption. How many earthquakes have there been and how big were they? Well, there's been 284 earthquakes in the last 5 days. And the report says, notice the depth column that very many of the earthquakes are happening at a negative depth. That means above ground. How does that happen? The volcano itself that rises 8,550 feet above ground, and some of the earthquakes are higher than ground level. That means that it's happening in the volcano itself. The above ground and the volcano quakes are highlighted in either yellow, less than 2 kilometers above ground, or in red, more than 2 kilometers above ground. What causes earthquakes inside a volcano higher than the ground level? Well, that's lava moving upwards. So that's bad. That's bad. A negative depth above ground. Lava moving upwards. That means that it's about to erupt. There's a whole list of earthquakes here. I mean, most of the article is all this, if you care to see them one by one. Now, do you have your attention on this? That's good, because we're told exactly what an eruption of the long lava caldera could mean. According to the USGS, the volcano last erupted, as we said, 16 to 17,000 years ago. Before that, they know it also erupted 760,000 years ago, because they tracked the volcanic ash deposits and found they covered an area shown in green on the map. Of course, the USGS could be correct. Perhaps all this activity and earthquakes and ground deformation at a rate they've never seen before, the whole mountain moving in a direction it's not supposed to be moving and belching toxic gas, might mean nothing. But then again, it could be what Mount St. Helens was about to happen when it blew just before it blew. We just figured the good folks of California, Nevada, and other nearby states might want to know what the facts are and decide for themselves if all this speculatory, unusual stuff means nothing. So if there is actually a big eruption coming, those big flows of gray-colored ash that careen down the mountain, called pyroclastic flows, move at about 500 miles an hour. If you see movies, you see the people running, trying to run it out, trying to get out faster than the pyroclastic flow, and some of them do make it with a car. That's not true. That does not happen, because it moves at 500 miles an hour. That's almost as fast as an airplane. And the temperature of those gray, billowy clouds of ash, that's 800 degrees. So you can count outrunning it. You will not survive it. It'll because the speed of the ash cloud knocks down everything in its path, and the temperature of the ash cloud causes everything to burst into flames. Now, for those in the green-colored area, you should be aware that volcanic ash is not actually ash. It is pulverized rock. It will stall your car by clogging the air intake, and if you get out of your car to see why it stalled and you breathe in a few whiffs of ash, it turns into mud-like sludge in your lungs, and it turns into cement in a couple of good whiffs, and you're suffocating on the sludge. There is no treatment, nor cure, you're just dead. So there are more quakes, and they're getting stronger. In the hours spent researching and writing this article, USGS has begun reporting even more earthquakes, and they're getting stronger. Now, a brief history, we said approximately 760,000 years ago, the volcanic eruption took place in the northern portions of present-day California, which was 2,000 times greater than the more recent eruption of Mount St. Helens in Washington state. 2,000 times greater. The eruption caused a caldera 10 miles wide and 20 miles in length. It's estimated that the eruption left a lava flow that covered 1,500 square miles and was caused the placement of 150 cubic miles of volcanic material. The ash from the volcano was thrown as far east as Nebraska and Kansas, all the way to the Pacific Ocean in the west, into Idaho, Wyoming in the north, and even northern parts of Mexico. In the modern day world, the volcano in question has not had any volcanic activity over 200 years. Well, this is an old article I'm reading from. This is from 2007. Well, we just read to you what happened. It is active, and it's pushing and belching and rising, and we have the negative earthquakes, which means that the lava is flowing through the volcano. In 1980, Volcano Watch was set at an all-time high after Mount St. Helens eruption, which took the lives of many bystanders caught in the path of the violent explosion. Which such a disaster fresh in the minds of American people, the USGS began searching for other volcanoes in the continental United States that might also present a danger. We also have Yellowstone ready to burst. Now, the ways the caldera in Long Valley caldera is monitored, being constantly monitored by USGS, remote sensors, seismicity, ground deformation, low-lying atmospheric gases, hydrology, that is the lakes, wells, fumarole springs, and participation of caldera are continually monitored to record the order to be read by USGS. The data is then compared to other known volcanic patterns that the USGS might be able to make a safe and timely prediction on the possibility of another eruption. I'll leave links below for you for this, so heads up, they've given us a warning. This is active, and the negative earthquakes mean that the lava is making its way up through the volcano, up to the caldera. That's not good. I'll leave links below for you for this.